Hello, Michael Short here from WaaS Pro, and today I got Todd Jones from Website Copy Framework to discuss with me how his framework works and why we would want it included in our WaaS and helping our customers get set up with their content or their copy on their website. So, Todd, welcome. I'm glad to have you.
Hey, Michael. How's it going?
Great, thanks. So tell me a little bit more about the Website Copy Framework, how it's all started, and basically we'll start there.
I've been transitioning to copywriting, content marketing for some time, and so I still build websites from time to time, and trying to get away from that a little bit, and because I feel like my strength's more in the messaging. So I've worked with friends in the area, and I started doing these worksheets, PDF downloads for lead magnets and stuff. And I decided to pull them all together and kind of just testing out. I gave it as a lead magnet, all those worksheets to the folks at the Agency Trailblazers conference back in the spring. And so, people downloaded that. And one of those fellows, Paul Lacey, he said, "Hey man, these are really good. You should sell them." Like, okay, what? And he said, and he told me a story about walking his client through using the worksheets, how he sold a consulting session. So he added value to his project. He positioned himself as more of an authority. And on top of that, he said when they were done, the client understood more the value of copy more than they did when they started it. And so it was kind of an eye-opener, and he encouraged me to put that together. And so I went back to work and took the worksheets and tried to give it a little bit of a cohesive brand. A friend of mine offered to do some graphic design for it, so I took that person up on it and added some worksheets that I didn't originally do. In fact, about a couple weeks before I launched, I was scrambling to add the benefits worksheet because I felt like it needed to be added. And excuse me, Paul believed so much in it that even though he had the original stuff, he still bought the product from me after I launched it. So I appreciate Paul for that. And he was really kind of the person who got me, really encouraged me to do that. Now I had all my friends, the vendor and Rob and some other people that were saying, yeah, you should do this, really good idea. So we went to work, and I worked on that several Saturdays coming into the office, working on stuff, trying to get that together. Did a landing page. I don't know if you know the vendor, but he did the landing page for me over at CopyFlight. And then I got into your group. I'm not sure how that happened, but when I found out I could sell it through your group, I was thrilled. Like, oh, another place to sell the Website Copy Framework. So so we're keeping everything pretty consistent so far. The price is the same, so that way your people don't get shortchanged any if they go through your system versus the website. So
yeah, what I like about it is that as a WaaS owner or WaaS developer, we're always looking for ways to create upsells and other services that we can add to our WaaS. And obviously content or copy is a very important part of the initial setup or the framework of even a WaaS. And so I think this, like you said, is a great way for us to add value to our customers as we're building their WaaSs out. So I'm excited to see what you have to show us. So can you give us kind of an example of what we can expect?
Yeah. So first thing I wanted to say is I think this product is best used when you put on your consulting hat as a digital marketer. So it's not a fill in the blank kind of templated deal. It's there's going to be some work done. I have so far really talked to people and said, hey, look, my advice is do a onboarding session, that you maybe do an onboarding session or a content gathering session. This would be the perfect time to use it. You come in and give it at least an hour to go through the worksheets with them to come up with the information you need. And then you'll need to put it together. So I do tell you that you need a writer, whether it's you or somebody else, or if you hire somebody, you'll probably need a writer. I would probably, have a writer on hand for that. But if you just need somebody who can put two sentences together, take the information and turn it into a couple sentences. So I'm going to share with you my screen here. Where am I? I am going to share the About Page framework. Can you see that?
I sure can.
Okay, a big old purple cover image. Very generic, but it's a little bit branded. It got my website logo on there. And so this particular framework does come from, is an inspired deal. I didn't really come up with this, except that I did add a couple things to it. But you'll see in the table of contents, you actually will see the framework in the table of contents. So there are headers, for each one. So you're going to need, get down to the first one. Your headline, I always recommend your headline come from your unique value proposition. And this is true on the home page, on the About page, and even the Writing Your Services page. So now, people may not know a whole lot about what a unique value proposition is. I also have a worksheet. I can pull that up too if you would like. But your unique value proposition is going to answer at least 4 questions, or 3 of 4 questions that I like to say. Who am I? What do I do? Who do I do it for? And how do I do it differently? Those 4 things are pretty basic. Some people may call it a benefit-driven statement or a one-liner. If you're used to the StoryBrand framework by Don Miller, they would call it a one-liner. The only thing is, I'd say when you do your unique value proposition, put everything in there, and then you can refine it. A headline is going to be a one-liner. But anyway, that's the ideal. Your headline is going to come directly from your unique value proposition, which is why I have the UVP worksheet in the package. So I actually tell you to do that first, because that is something you're going to need for all 3 pages. I give a few little things, tips that I see. This comes from the author of the blog post where I am inspired to do the framework. First is be clear. I like to say be clear, not clever. I tell people that all the time. And so we tend to be clear, especially that, on your homepage, you'll see people do it all the time. That hero shot area at the top, that above the fold, which is the absolute most valuable piece of content on your website. People will do all kinds of funky creative stuff. The problem with that is that most people, UX people talk about the 5-second rule. I say you have 3 seconds for people to decide whether or not they're going to continue reading your page. And so that would be the case with about all 3 of the pages, but certainly with your headline, your value prop headline, it needs to be clear rather than clever. I tell people with any headline or any title, write variations. The author talks about writing 25 headlines. Basically, you get a chance to see you do it different ways. But even if you're writing an email headline or a blog post headline, I say at least write 10. That gives you a chance to let your brain play with the word variations. But regardless, you have the answers to those 4 questions I talk about, and then the value prop worksheet that I have. I use a couple different value prop frameworks. There's dozens of them. They're on the web. I didn't only put a couple in there. If you don't like any of those, you can certainly do a little Google search for value prop formulas. You'll see dozens of them that you can use, but I did put a couple of them in there to make it simple. And also, the other thing is to consider writing the page first before you do the headline or the value prop. I'm giving you the opposite advice on this, because I think you need to at least get your value prop down. You can write the headline once you're done with the page. That I would agree with. Maybe wait till you're done. I do that a lot with blog posts. I'll have a basic idea of what the blog post title is, and I'll write that, then I'll write the blog post, because I have a hard time continuing if I don't put something there, if that makes any sense. Then I'll go back and change it if I need to. But those are really not unusual pieces of points to consider with any headline you do. People have different opinions on that. Some people want to write the headline first. I'm more comfortable with refining the headline. So I'm of the opinion that you get everything out and then you clean it up later. So You write a piece of content, give it at least 24 hours before you hit publish. That gives you a chance to look at it and say, I didn't want to do it this way. So that's my opinion. Anyway, so I'll give you a couple headline examples and from a couple of real life websites, actually three. One comes from the software Sumo. You may have heard of them, sumo.com. Used to be AppSumo, not AppSumo, SumoMe, but now they do a bunch of other stuff. Free tools to automate your site growth. And that's on their about page. So Case Study Buddy is a productized service for case studies that my friend Joel runs. And he has a really good about page. I did have a couple of critiques for him, which I don't think he's changed, but anyway, nobody knows case studies like us. That's their value prop, their headline on their about page. And so that's a pretty good one. And then WP Engine, I'm assuming it's still the same. We're on a mission to help customers win online. So as you can see, there's kind of benefit driven statements that is derived from their company value prop. So again, they're clear and they're not trying to be clever. So the next section we talked about is the imagined dream. So what you're doing is you're asking the customer to imagine what life would be like if it was better. So whatever you're doing, if you're providing a platform for products for WaaS companies, you're taking someone who maybe is really confused about what to do, what products to use, and you're telling them that, hey, look, if you use our store, we've got the best wash products for you to choose from. You kind of imagine what life's like a little bit better. The same would be like a plumber, right? You got a flood going on because your hot water heater bust. They can see what's wrong. Well, imagine what it's like if you never have to worry about that again because your plumber redid your hot water heater and he added a little compartment underneath that catches the water so that if it ever busts again, it will all go there instead of in your kitchen floor. I know this because I got a friend for a plumber, so and he was explaining to me that. So anyways, how your life would look different, that kind of thing. So you're asking people to look forward to something that's better. This section is we're talking about the we are different section. And so really the best question to ask, and this is what she says in the article, draft this section about asking yourself, what pisses you off about your industry? There's no better question to ask now. This right here will tell you why you are different. So, you're a chiropractor and you know that people who are athletic don't like to use chiropractors. They'd rather use something else. And you really think they should use chiropractors. So you do everything in your power to make your practice appeal to athletes, weekend warriors. So, that's just a very minor sample. But when you ask that question, what pisses you off about your industry? That's when you begin to realize what your company does different. By the way, this is a lot of self-reflection. So, and these answers are not always top of mind. So sometimes it takes a little digging. And this is where you as a consultant comes in handy. Then I like to say, add your story. This is actually different than what is in the article that I refer to. I talk about adding your story. And I think everybody should do this. Not everybody does. You can get away without doing it. But I think if you can do something that tells a little bit about your story, it humanizes you, makes you likable. And those two things are important. So it doesn't have to be, in fact, I say this, your about page is not really about you, even though your about page is the one page where you can write about yourself. But as I was talking to somebody the other day, I said, but it's more like 2/3, 1/3. 2/3 about your client and maybe 1/3 about yourself. But here is your opportunity to talk about yourself. But talk about it in terms of things like, what is your company? What are your company values? How did you get started? Why did you get started? What is something you're passionate about as a company? And then, what skills do you bring to the table? Always put it in the framework of a narrative, a story arc. You got started. There's some kind of problem, adversity, and you overcome it. and you get better. So keep a story arc in mind when you're doing that. But I think if you can touch on one, two or three of those four sections, you make your company. No company is human, but the reality is all companies are made up of humans, right? WaaS.STORE. I mean, WaaS.STORE is a company, but behind WaaS.STORE is Michael Short. What makes Michael Short different?
Mhm.
What is the one thing you absolutely won't do in business? There are your values. Uh, maybe you like um, gear, hats with logos and stuff on it. Maybe that's something you're passionate about. Those kind of things. So that's where you talk about your story. The next two are basically call to action sections. Um, so what is your best offer as a service professional? So is your best offer digital marketing retainer package? Well, that's what you put in there. Or what is your most popular service? Maybe your most popular service is some kind of monthly product that people have. This is where you put it in here. This is where you would kind of try to sell that particular thing. And the last one is a sign up for your emails. I have seen a few recently where people put their email sign up on there, but they didn't really put their offer. And I think I like the idea of doing both. And something I really don't have in here, I'm not really sure why, Michael. Maybe in the future I'll put it in there, but probably between these two sections, you could have a testimonial or two. Or if you have some social credibility logos, like you're a member of the chamber or you're a WP Elevation graduate or something like that, just something to give yourself a little bit of credibility, credibility enhancer. So I would add that in there as well. The other one I was going to pull up was the get started document. I don't know if you want me to do that now or you want to ask me some questions before.
Yeah, no, let's go ahead and move on to this. You did actually, just real quick while you're bringing this up and getting ready, you did mention WP Elevation, and that's one of the things, that's a program that I went through, and one of the things that came to mind when you and I were talking prior to recording is that, like, what this framework is doing is essentially what WP Elevation does for the framework of a business and setting up websites. So I really love it. It really puts things in an order, in a process that you can go through with your customers.
Yeah, I think, and this particular document says "Read me first." That's actually the name of the document, because I want to give a little bit of instructions. So I have this little introduction page, and then so this is a quote I like to say, and it's not perfect, but it's a good one. And I don't know if you guys know Joanna Wiebe from Copy Hackers. But Copy Hackers is probably one of the top conversion copywriting blogs and companies, at least in North America. Anyway, Joanna, I've sat in on a lot of her Tuesday tutorials over the last couple of years, just soaking in all the wisdom she gives. And one of the things she would routinely say, because guess what? During these tutorials, she would introduce to us frameworks and formulas and templates and all kinds of stuff. But she would say the cure for writer's block is research. And what she mean by that, and so, I put that on a Facebook group somewhere, and somebody said, well, sometimes it's not because people just keep researching to avoid writing. But what she's referring to is not so much the active research, although that's definitely in there, but it's having a process and knowing what to do next. So, and that's what the copy framework does. And that's why copywriters have formulas that they use for stuff. Content marketers do the same thing. So that's the idea. We're trying to help your customer who's writing their content not have writer's block because they don't know what they're doing, what to do next. And you can sit there for several minutes or hours looking at a cursor on a blank page, or find something to walk you through it. And that's what this framework does. I address a few things. Well, I need a writer, and I write, you need someone who can put two sentences together and make them sound clear. If you can do that, then that's fine. Let me say this, if it is hard to write, it is hard to write about yourself and your company. So that would be the case for anybody. When you're using the about page, it is really hard to write about yourself. So, you do need somebody who can write, whether a designated writer. Writing for a business website is a totally different skill than writing a term paper for college. Although there are some similarities, but when you're writing more formal type writing, and business writing in general should be informal or casual. Now, there are some times when it does need to be formal, but we tend to be too formal with our business website writing. And you should be writing for the average person. So to illustrate that, let me tell you a story. I like stories. Copywriter friend tells a story about messaging and connecting with people on LinkedIn when he got started in the copywriting industry. And he threw out the word in this video, the Barstool test. And he explained, it's kind of like when you're in the bar and you're sitting at the bar stool and there's a guy next to you. When you start talking to him, you don't speak professional speak. You just talk like a regular old guy. And he was saying, when you reach out to people, even CEOs, to just talk like they're a regular guy rather than being all professional, because in the end, we're all humans, right? I can't say enough about that. So when you do write, be fairly casual. In fact, there's an app, and you can use it online for free. It's called the Hemingway app. And if you are a little unsure, it'll kill two birds with one stone. It'll help you with the grammar, because I know I'm not the best at grammar. I'm horrible at spelling. It'll help with that. But another thing it'll do, it will tell you what grade reading level you're on. You don't want to be writing at 12. Somewhere around 7th and 8th grade level is probably appropriate in this situation. It will tell you if you got hard to read sentences, that kind of thing. So there is a book that I would recommend for people. If you're a WaaS owner and you're going to walk people through, and maybe somebody in your team is going to do the writing, actually here on my desk, so I can pull it up and put it up on the video. It's called Everybody Writes by Ann Handley. I highly recommend this book. If anybody in business who has to write, which is pretty much all of us, whether you're writing emails or writing blog posts or writing for a website. Anyway, she will tell you all the things you need to know about writing, but basically keep it simple, keep it casual, but you will still need somebody to write it. Again, whether it's yourself or a member of your team, or if the client has somebody they can write. Anyway, goals of the framework pack. He'll provide you with a few guideposts and a roadmap for completing the task of writing your website copy. So, and then I give the notice about it not being a template, but more of a framework. So when I think about framework, I'm sure most people have seen a house being built. Houses have framed, before you ever see the paneling or the sheetrock, there's the framework, the wood framework that goes up along with the foundation. So it's not a pre-written text kind of thing. So I have likened this to building a building with Lego blocks. So if you're a kid and you play with Lego blocks, you probably built something and you had to get the right blocks and stack them on top of each other. You're creating the Lego block, and then you're stacking them together. For me, it was Lincoln Logs. I don't know if you've ever heard of that or not, but
Oh yeah.
yeah. And actually, that's what I say on the next page. I'll talk about it being more like an assembling. You're assembling. So don't put the pressure of having to be a creative writer on you. This is not the place to be a creative writer. You want to write a short story or a piece of fiction, that's fine. This is a place to be clear, speak to your audience, and just follow the framework. So that's another thing I would say is don't be worried about trying to be creative. Actually consider being clear. So anyway, things you may need to know before starting. You're going to need to know what the core problem of your client is. What is the reason that your client comes to you for service? If it's a plumber, they probably got water in the floor. If they're a chiropractor, my back hurts, I can't move. You get the picture. Somebody, what is that core problem? What are the features of your service or product? We're going to use that to come up with the benefits. You lead with benefits and support with features. So one of the mistakes I see in copy on websites is people talk all day long about the features of the product, but they don't connect it to any particular benefit for the client. Lead with the benefits, lead the features to help support. You're going to need to know who your target market is. I like to talk about psychographics versus demographics. People tend to worry about what age somebody is, or whether they're a millennial or a baby builder or whatever. You know, that stuff is what Coca-Cola uses. For the rest of us, we're talking about what are the things that, what are the problems they have? What are the things that cause them to make decisions? Those are important, and they're not so much about demographics, more about psychographics. And then the last thing is testimonials from customers. If you hire me to write your copywriting, well, that's one of the first things I ask for. Testimonials, case studies, feedback forms, because that is where you're going to get a lot of your information you need to have. So, and then you'll need it for social proof at that. If you don't do anything else with them, having good testimonials on your home and about page, even the service page for the actual service you're doing, will be very helpful for credibility. And this page is the order of the framework process. Obviously, you can go the order you want to go, but I think this is the best way to go. Do the unique value proposition worksheet. Go through that. Come up with a value proposition. Write as many as you can, different ways, but you're probably going to need at least 3, one for each of the page. Work the benefits worksheet. That's going to help you extract the benefits. Work on your homepage. There's a framework there, and include an ebook that kind of gives you more information about how the framework works. Each framework will have, this is the framework, and this is what it all means. So you have the core document, has all the frameworks in it, and then each one has its own framework document with more information. So the company worksheet, which will help you with your about page, and then you work on your about page with, there's also an ebook for that, and then finally working on your writing on your services page. And I think we overlooked the writing the services page a lot. We just kind of put some information in there. But another thing I want to say, along with the other things I mentioned about writing, you're trying to persuade. And I don't mean manipulate, I mean persuade. And you persuade with benefits, you persuade with credibility, but you want to persuade. So that's why I talk about using the PAS formula in most of these pages, which is the most basic copywriting formula. Your problem, agitate the problem, and the solution. And I use that formula with the services page, because you start with the problem that the customer has before you lead them to the solution, which is you and your service. And then I kind of give a little checklist at the end. This is Paul's ideal, and it was a good idea. So, basically a few questions, have you worked on the company story worksheet, etc. So this page is meant to help you kind of serve as a roadmap for the entire framework. Does that help?
That helps. That's great. It's perfect.
Trying to get out of the sharing point.
Yeah, no worries. Perfect.
So yeah, that's the about page. A little bit of example. There should be one like that for each particular page. And so what I say, if you have more than one service that you're doing, just take that service page and repeat that process for each one.
Yeah, that's great. I'm excited about it. I was one of your first customers there on the WaaS.STORE, and I'm excited to jump in and start utilizing even on our own. I know that we have a lot of things that we need to update even on our own copy. So utilizing a framework like this will definitely be helpful and help me get through the process quicker. That's great.
Yeah, so when I do I'm doing teardowns right now, about page teardown, and it's basically based on that about page framework. So
awesome. Well, awesome. So the best place that you can get this is at WaaS.STORE, right? WaaS.STORE, and you'll see the product there. You can purchase it. We also have created a coupon code for the first 15 purchases on there, I believe is what you want to do, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what duration you have set up. I know, yeah. So at
So we,
least that, yeah.
yeah, so the first 15 are, we might extend a little longer just depending on what happens there. So to get,
October's my favorite month, so I'm giving $30 away.
there it is. So $30, you enter the coupon code video, VIDEO, all lowercase, and that should get you $30 off on WaaS.STORE. So it's
Yep.
been great. It's been a pleasure having you. I thank you for walking us through that. Now we have a better understanding of what it is that we're going to, get for our money. And I'd have to say that $97 is like a steal. And now you're taking $30 off of it. That's even a bigger steal. So
Yeah. I'm crazy. I really shouldn't be doing that, but I know it's all new to everybody, and maybe there's some questions. So maybe people will hesitate to pull the trigger, but hopefully this will help get them over the hump there.
yes. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. And I'm sure you'll get there and answer any questions you might have. So thanks again for your time, and look forward to staying connected with you in the group.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem.